The psychology of being unreachable, the art of cold power. Power starts where access ends. Anyone can pull a lever if their fingers can find it. Anyone can hurt you if their voice can touch that nervous place behind your ribs that craves to be told you're right, good, necessary. The world learns your doors. It brushes its knuckles against the soft wood and calls it love. But there is a colder geometry beneath the polite choreography of response and reassurance. Whoever can be reached on demand can be moved on demand. The rest is decoration, rituals of explanation wrapped around a simple fact. Reachability masquerades as kindness. It's the reflex to answer quickly, to smooth the signal, to stop the discomfort before it has a chance to grow teeth. You call it being present, responsible, communicative. You think intimacy is a hotline. You forget that every hotline can be tapped. There is a paradox that hovers like frost on a window. Warmth looks like safety, but burns your edges off. Cold looks like distance, but preserves the shape. People tell themselves stories to avoid standing in that frost. I'm just being considerate. I don't want them to worry. I should reply before they think I don't care. Those stories feel humane, and they often are, but attached to them is a leash that no one names. It tightens whenever someone discovers how to make you prove you're not cruel. Watch the choreography. When someone throws a net of implication over you, you haven't answered, so I guess I don't matter. The heart hammers, the fingers hover. Inside, a jury convenes. If I don't respond now, they'll rewrite me into a villain, and I will deserve it because I allowed the rewrite. You move. The answer you send is not a response. It is a ransom payment to redeem the image of yourself they threaten to arrest. A clever world doesn't need to cage you. It teaches you to pay the guards. The ones who unsettle this economy do not shout about boundaries. They do not posture. They go missing where others perform. They let the call ring until it stops. They allow questions to circle like birds over water, looking for a place to land, and often none. Silence is not their weapon, it is their climate. They are hard to reach, not because they enjoy withholding, but because they do not sell their availability at a loss. Their refusal is not an act. It is an atmosphere in which tactics cannot breathe. To be unreachable is to be allergic to being measured by speed. Modern life appoints timers to everything. How quickly you reply, how fast you forgive, how instantly you hand over the explanation demanded of you. Delay is treated as guilt, hesitation as confession. The cold power looks at the timer and sees a clock owned by someone else. It refuses the race. It returns time to its original function, a buffer between stimulus and decision. Inside that buffer, pressure sucks. There is an older place where this starts. A childhood room where silence was dangerous, where waiting meant losing love, where delay triggered punishment. We learn to respond like firefighters, sprinting toward any smoke placed in front of us. The body keeps those alarms for decades. It takes very little, just an implied loss, to set every siren wailing. The unreachable person hears the same sirens. They just do not leave their post without orders from a higher authority, the one in the spine, not the room. Cold power is not cruelty. Cruelty needs witnesses. It thrives on flinches, tears, victories, recorded in someone else's eyes. The unreachable do not need witnesses for anything. They aren't trying to win a public game. They are privately conserving heat. Warmth is not denied. It is directed. It goes to the places that don't invoice it. It does not run toward a hand extended like a ticket checkpoint. Present your soul for admission. You can feel when you meet this atmosphere. The conversation doesn't bounce. Jokes land and die without being harvested for allegiance. You cannot stir them with the usual spices: urgency, flattery, the acid of mild disappointment. They listen, but they don't lean. Their attention doesn't fall forward. Without forward fall, there is no handle for a grip. Manipulators wander this landscape like tourists in winter, underdressed and impatient. Their breath shows theirs is the only body shivering. Organizations know the opposite intimately. They create systems of reach, channels, dashboards, notifications, cultures of instantaneous permission. In those cultures, the reachable rise fast. They look like team players until the team is addicted to their compliance. The unreachable don't climb quickly. They are misunderstood, aloof, cold, difficult, not bought in. They pay their price in reputation coins, the only currency most people know. It looks like stubbornness. Look at seduction dressed as care. I just need to know you're okay. It's a sentence that can hold genuine concern or weaponized access. The difference is invisible unless you can let the words hang without paying them respect that has not yet been earned. The reachable rush in to confirm their goodness to the voice calling out. The unreachable take the temperature. Does this inquiry ask for me or for my compliance? The pause answers it for them. In love, this temperature scares people. Love is a furnace. Everyone wants to be fed by it. You won't feed it on demand. You must be withholding. If you won't warm me now, you must not care. The cold power doesn't negotiate at the level of accusations. It doesn't fix an image. It tends to the fire without selling logs by the hour. Real warmth requires oxygen. Try to own a fire and you smother it. Try to summon a person with alarms and you get smoke instead of heat. There is a quiet rule. The first one who cannot be compelled sets the pace of the room. They do not punish with their silence. They let cause and effect do it. If you push, they do not push back. They remove the surface from which your push could rebound. Your momentum carries you elsewhere. It looks like indifference from a distance. You don't need a philosophy to notice this. You felt the relief of not answering when your hand was halfway to the door. You felt the shame of answering anyway, and the small self-betrayal that followed. You felt the chill of being accused of coldness, and the deeper warmth of remaining intact. The world is loud about one of these sensations, and silent about the other. That's how weather works. It reports the wind, not the structural integrity of the houses that refuse to sway. Cold power is a climate you create inside your own chest. You let weather happen, and you don't confuse it with governance. You put fewer microphones on your heart, and you keep the volume low. People still speak. They just don't receive your power of attorney along with your attention. Being unreachable is not an absence from your life. It is an absence from other people's schedules. It keeps you in the room where you actually live. They are simple machines made of appetite, timing, and narrative. Most people are reachable through two doors: fear of being abandoned and fear of being misread. Open either, and you can ring them like a bell. This is why manipulation prefers urgency and accusation to fact. Urgency floods the body, forces early purchase. Accusation forces a trial where the defendant must speak or be condemned. Either way, the silence that keeps you sovereign is replaced with noise that keeps you compliant. Access is a currency. Those who understand it hoard and ration, not to starve others, but to keep the market sane. If your attention has no price, it is looted. If your time can be bought with panic, panic becomes the coin of the realm. People who practice cold power don't accept panic as legal tender. They require cost measured in sincerity, patience, reality. Watch how this deflates tactics. When someone cannot purchase you with a raised voice or a trembling lip, they either bring something cleaner to the table or leave to shop elsewhere. Scarcity isn't a trick here, it's a boundary. Scarcity manipulates when it is manufactured to inflate value. Boundary clarifies value by refusing to dilute it. The unreachable do not withhold to create demand. They withhold because the alternative is to be commodified by every passing weather system. A life without gates is not generous. It is unsecured. The most generous places in the world, libraries, hospitals, still have doors. Frames are where reach begins. A good partner always answers. A decent colleague is accessible. Real friends are available. On the surface, these are community norms. Under the surface, they are levers that turn your worth into an hourly wage paid in responsiveness. Cold power declines employment in that economy. It does not argue at the level of the frame. It refuses to be hired at all. There is a difference between mutual care and mutual monitoring. The first builds trust. The second builds surveillance. We prefer the warmth of persuasion, but most persuasion we encounter is hospitality offered by a host who wants your keys while you're comfortable. They ask for access to your calendar, your attention, your sleep, your self-evaluation registry. If you flinch at being thought cruel, they will own you. If you flinch at being thought arrogant, they will borrow your humility to pay their bills. The unreachable feel these tugs and file them under weather, not under law. They do not litigate every cloud. They do not include the forecast in their will. Self-deception is the gate left open. I'm reachable because I care. Perhaps, but how much of your caring is a tax you've agreed to in exchange for being seen as good? Caring is not a public performance. It does not require an audience to exist. The reachable confuse being seen caring with caring. They respond to be witnessed, to be recorded as decent. The unreachable care in private and appear cold in public when the invitation is a ledger, not a need. Cold power lives in latency. Latency is the gap between stimulus and response, where your nervous system wants to sprint and your spine tells it to walk. In that gap, you examine whether the bid is for you or for a role you are being asked to occupy. The more you train latency, the less theatrical your life becomes. Manipulators hate latency because it ruins timing. Their tricks rely on tempo, escalate, corner, extract. When the tempo fails, they lose rhythm and you keep your pulse. Distance, done cleanly, does not punish. Punishment requires attention. Clean distance is a subtraction of access without spectacle. The reachable confuse distance with cruelty because their world has only two temperatures, hot attention and cold neglect. Cold power introduces a third, cool regard. It is precise, unsentimental and fair. It says, I see you, I hear you, I am not for rent. Consider the dynamics of confession used as control. I told you my secrets. Now you owe me your availability. Confession is sacred when it is offered, not traded. A manipulative confessor builds a bridge they intend to toll. Cold power hears the truth, holds it with respect, and does not sign the access contract that often hides beneath it. The unreachable are often excellent confidants for this reason. They treat revelations as gifts, not levers. Approval is the great transmitter. People will crawl through broken glass for a nod that says, "You are acceptable in my system." The unreachable do not insult approval. They simply refuse to be tuned by it. Their station plays their music whether or not you listen. This makes them opaque to those whose primary instrument is social reward. Without a reward that bites, the trainer has no teeth. The narrative of being there for people is a map to a well. It shows how to reach you with the least friction. Those who need your soul for warmth will follow it like a pilgrim trail. The reachable ignore the sign at the bottom that reads, limit per person. The unreachable enforce it without signs. They know one more bucket means the well runs dry for months. This is not stinginess, it's hydrology. Workplaces codify reach as culture. The reachable call it responsiveness and wear it like an identity badge. The unreachable do the work and let hours pass without feeding the machine. They get labeled until the results make the labels awkward. Cold power trusts the weight of outcomes more than the noise of optics. Optics demand availability. Outcomes demand competence. You can fake optics. You can't fake the quiet evidence of welches and refusals. Romance complicates the map because reach is confused with love. There is tenderness in immediate presence. Yes, there is also control hidden under that blanket. Cold power loves without loaning out the light switch. It will hold you and decline to be summoned like a bellhop for feelings you refuse to own. It will sit with your storm and refuse to become your barometer. If that feels icy, examine the warmth you're asking for. Is it connection or is it governance? People who fight the unreachable often believe they're fighting arrogance. Sometimes they are. Stone walls can be built out of fear, but cold power is not a stone wall. It's a glacier, slow, alive, ancient. It moves, but on its time. It carves valleys while refusing to be rushed by weather. You cannot conquer a glacier with a torch. You will melt the snow on top, declare victory, and then find the ice unharmed beneath, continuing its patient work. The invisible engine of reach is shame. Shame at the thought of being seen as unkind, unresponsive, uncaring. Shame is gravitational. It pulls your hand to the reply button, your feet to the door. Cold power lets shame exist without obeying it. It does not pretend to be above that human heat. It simply refuses to use shame as a compass. Compass needles are metal. Magnets move them. Shame is a magnet in other people's hands. There is a brutal contradiction at the center of being reachable. The more you answer to prove you care, the less your care is believed. Availability becomes baseline. The only thing noticed is deviation. A kindness done once is a bouquet. A kindness done always becomes the table. Cold power denies the conversion of gifts into infrastructure. It keeps kindness as a decision, not an obligation. This preserves its meaning and its edge. The unreachable are accused of being hard to know. Perhaps they refuse the transparency that turns a person into a glass house, where any passerby can inventory the furniture. Cold power is not secrecy, it is opacity. Secrecy hides something because it is ashamed. Opacity protects something because it is sacred. One breeds paranoia, the other breeds mystique. Paranoia needs constant maintenance. Mystique maintains itself, because nothing is for sale. Here is the uncomfortable heart of it. Being unreachable is not a tactic, it's a temperament trained into an ethic. You stop offering your nervous system to auctions. You stop buying back your name with quick replies. You stop trading your silence for temporary relief, and you learn the cost. You will be misunderstood, and no trumpet will sound to correct the record. You will be named cold in whispers that feel like knives when you're tired. You will watch people choose the version of you that makes them feel justified. You will not chase them through their own house to rearrange the mirrors. This is the art of cold power, suffering small deaths without bargaining your life away. The deeper pattern is cruelly simple. The world can only manipulate what it can touch. If your reflexes are accessible, your decisions are rented. If your hours are accessible, your boundaries are seasonal. If your conscience is accessible to anyone's disappointment, your ethics are opinion polls. Cold power retracts these surfaces like a turtle that knows the sky has hawks. It is not fear, it is memory. It remembers the cost of being furniture in someone else's room. What makes this transformation possible is not contempt for others. Contempt is another leash. It keeps you attached to what you despise. What changes is allegiance. You pledge it inward, to the quiet jurisdiction that hears the room and still rules in favor of your spine. This allegiance is expensive because it prohibits a favorite human pastime, correcting how you live by altering how you are seen. The day that pastime dies is quiet. There are no fireworks. There is a balloon deflating in another room, and a heaviness lifting from your shoulders even as the air grows colder. You begin to feel power not as heat but as absence of panic. The call comes with urgency braided into it. You taste adrenaline rise like metal on the tongue. The old you would move. The new you lets the metal taste fade. No reply yet. The accusation arrives with its pre-printed verdict. The old you would assemble exhibits at 3 in the morning. The new you leaves the courtroom locked, case unaccepted. People hate locked rooms. They will rattle the handle until they exhaust themselves or leave. Either way, your house remains yours. The most subversive act inside love, friendship, work, is to stop rescuing your image. When you rescue your image, you rescue everybody else's fantasy that they can define you and extract something from you by doing so. Cold power allows the fantasy to starve. It does not throw rocks at it. Rock throwing is attention, and attention is food. You starve it by cooking for yourself. Eventually, the fantasy moves to a warmer kitchen. There is a tenderness here that outsiders miss. To hold your silence while someone projects upon you is not a sadist's game. It is grief work. You stand in the funeral clothes of who you are in their head, and you lower that figure into the ground. You do not argue with the priest. You do not shout at the mourners. You let the dirt fall. Then you go home and set the table for the living version of you that they could not host. This is the price. You pay it because the alternative is to be embalmed alive. Cold power is not about winning. Winning requires an opponent. The unreachable have none. They have weather, and weather is not an enemy. It is a condition. You dress for it. You don't sue it. This is why the unreachable are often accused of nihilism when they are merely done bargaining with storms. They do not deny connection. They deny governance that travels through panic, guilt, and hurry. Connection that cannot arrive without those ships does not deserve the port. A dangerous truth sits beneath this. Your reachability is the residue of your dependencies. If you must be seen as kind, you can be called at any hour to prove it. If you must be seen as competent, you will overwork to outrun any rumor. If you must be seen as loyal, you will be conscripted into wars you didn't start. Cold power requires a different must. I must be intact. Every other costume is seasonal. When you keep that oath, the seasons stop deciding your wardrobe. When people say you're hard to reach, test their meaning. Often they mourn the death of their ability to stage manage your responses. They were not calling your number, they were dialing a script. When the script stops picking up, they assume you've left the building. You haven't, you've just changed your address from public to private. Those who care will learn the new route. Those who cared about the doorbell will stay on the porch. The world will try to shame this posture by calling it isolation. There is such a thing as isolation that curdles the soul. Cold power is not that. It is solitude used as a forge. You go there to beat shape into your metal without spectators. You come back into the village with edges that do not cut when touched, because you are no longer sharpened by panic. The reachable are sharp with the wrong edge. They slice themselves to appease. The unreachable are blunt where they should be. No handle, no grip. Every revolution in your life will be quiet and administrative. You will reassign authority away from external alarms to your internal court. You will rewrite the policy on emergency. You will redefine kindness so it can coexist with refusal. You will reissue your contact information. Not who can dial, but who gets answered. Not who may ask, but who has earned patience. These are not proclamations. They are switches in a breaker box no one else can see. You will not turn them back on. Eventually, the rumor shifts. People learn that guilt gets no purchase. Hurry gets no traction. Flattery gets no traction. Accusation gets no traction. It is not that nothing works. Reality works. Evidence works. Evidence works. Sincerity works. Time works. This is what cold power returns to any ecosystem. A meritocratic physics where only weight moves things. The weight of truth displaces, the weight of tantrum does not. Those who live by tantrum will call this a blizzard. So be it. Whether reports are not constitutions, there is a darker implication that most flinch from. To be unreachable is to concede the luxury of being relentlessly loved for your compliance. The reachables are adored because they are convenient. They are the emergency exits everyone keeps marked. The unreachable are inconvenient. They cannot be counted on to self-betray for group comfort. In exchange for this, they are allowed to be trusted in a deeper way. If they come, they chose it. If they stay, it is not hostage-taking. If they love, it is not to fix a public relations problem inside their chest. That trust is colder, rarer, and it lasts longer than applause. Power that is cold does not humiliate. It withholds the conditions that create humiliation. It refuses to enter contests where dignity is wagered for speed. It meets pressure with absence, and drama with gravity. Gravity does not argue with falling objects. It lets them discover reality on their own timetable. That is what the unreachable offer without advertisement. A field in which everyone learns their actual weight. You might wonder, at the end, whether this posture will cost you the very warmth you wanted. It will cost you false warmth, the kind that depends on your temperature being set by someone else's thermostat. It will not cost you the kind that lights rooms without burning the furniture. In fact, it protects that fire by refusing to let it be used to heat houses that never paid for insulation. Cold power preserves warmth by making it too expensive to misuse. Stand in your hallway in the quiet after someone leaves angry because you didn't answer when panic knocked. Feel the ache, the second-guessing, the phantom vibration of 1,000 would-be explanations. Let them all pass. Hear your own pulse. Slow, slow, slower, the house settles. In that near silence, the world still turns, and your life does not end when you are not on call. This is not victory, it is calibration. It is the return of a tone you forgot you own. The last question is not about them. It is about the lock you carry. Who has a key that bypasses your verdict? Who can make you sprint on command? Who can summon your better angel to do their bidding and call it virtue? If you know the names, you know your weather. If you don't, their hands are already on the thermostat. The art of cold power is not refusing love. It is refusing trespass disguised as love. If you stopped answering those knocks, what part of you would finally pick up?